Hi, we're back again for another edition of Meteorology Lab, and we've got a very quiet pattern here once again. I went outside to shoot this footage and just clear skies. Can't even do a time lapse, and so I'll just have to give you the setting sun. SPC showing just a little bit of a marginal risk area up for the northeast U.S. with that departing system coming up the northeast coast. And this is probably one of the quietest Mays I remember in quite a while. Down on the bottom you can see what it usually looks like. I can't pull the screen all the way up there, but yeah, we are usually looking at some major severe weather outbreaks this time of year. Part of the reason is we have a fairly active Hudson Bay low, and maybe I can show that to you on the Canada analysis. Let me bring that up here real quick. Canadian analysis is going to be right there. And we've had low pressure in this area, very persistent, around the Hudson Bay region. And when we have that in place, that tends to bring cool air masses southward down along the eastern plains, the plains east of the Rockies, and that makes it into the U.S. itself. And that in turn kind of interferes with moist air coming up off the Gulf. And the dew points have definitely been fairly dry, and that's the reason for that right there, just a kind of an active Hudson Bay low pattern. And there you can see the troughing, very sharp troughing through the eastern U.S. there. And it looks like the vortex this morning was centered right around Louisville. And that's probably moved eastward. I don't have the latest radiosonde data. I would expect that to be over Cincinnati or Charleston, West Virginia. Ridging is building in, and we're going to have that in place over the Great Plains this weekend, so things should remain pretty fair and mild in this area. But move a little further westward, and there we've got a polar front jet along the west coast, 105 knots there at Quileute and up at Comox. So we've got that flow increasing there, and another Pacific system about to come on shore here over the weekend. We'll skip on down to 700 millibars, and that's just showing the vertically stacked low right there, pretty much centered south of Nashville this morning. And then we go to 850 millibars, and now we find the 850 or 5,000 foot low a little bit north of Nashville, kind of in central Kentucky there. So this is definitely a vertically stacked low. We can refer to this as an occluded system, a barotropic system, or a cold core low. And the reason it's barotropic is because it's separated from the warm air. We find most of the warm air and the temperature contrast to be well to the east, right in this area here. So the main baroclinicity region is going to be right there, and we should see a polar front jet overlying that. So we go up to 250 millibars, and we see that's a little bit closer, maybe around Pittsburgh to just west of Washington, D.C. So maybe we'll put that front right there, 850 millibars, somewhere in this area here. And looks like a bit of a low-level jet out ahead of it. 50 knots there at Sterling. So a little bit of activity going on out there, but rapidly moving east, and we're about to start turning our attention to conditions further west this evening. Okay, I glanced over at chat, and I noticed Mark Sanchez said 101 in Las Vegas. So this morning at, let's see, this would be about 7:65 in the morning in Las Vegas, 24 degrees Celsius there, and that's going to be 75 degrees up at 5,000 feet. So those are very warm conditions this morning, and that helped allow for a very rapid warm-up during the day. And let's take a look at the sounding there at Las Vegas. Where did I put the sounding? There it is. The soundings used to be at Desert Rock. When I lived there back in the 90s, we used Winnemucca and Desert Rock. But it appears they've shifted that to the forecast office there in Las Vegas sometime in the mid or late 90s. Okay, so this is the evening profile. Let me switch this back to this morning's chart. And this will give us something unique to look at that we might see on the Great Plains later in the season. But there you go. This is the 5 a.m. SQT right there. Lots of warm air. And up at 900 millibars, just a few hundred feet off the surface, you can see we had 28 degrees Celsius, which is about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's before the sun has even come up. And we've got a very shallow radiational inversion right there. So at the ground, it was about 73 Fahrenheit. But you can see very rapid warm-up during the day. And then we kind of look at a geometric area. I don't know if I can describe this in detail very well, but you see that area that I painted here, this shaded region, bounded on the right by this line parallel to these dry adabats. This represents the maximum temperature during the day. And usually when I forecast highs, I look for a certain geometric area in here, assuming that we have full sunshine, and depending on the time of the year. So, yeah, this is going to allow for a very rapid warm-up, and at the bottom here, we can pretty much read off the high temperature during the day. And I'm seeing here probably, guesstimating maybe 98, 99 degrees Fahrenheit. So that appears to be pretty well in the ballpark what we had for afternoon temperatures there. So very warm conditions there. Okay, let's take a look at what else happened around the country, and I guess we'll just go ahead and do the frontal analysis. There's our cold core system right there, and it appears at the surface this evening the low pressure is now found around Pittsburgh. The main baroclinic system should be a little bit east of there. So maybe I'll go somewhere between these two lines right here is where we're going to find the front. And then the warm front is going to be a little bit easier to find right there. So moving up into New Hampshire and Vermont and up around Albany. And then in behind all that, the cold air coming into the central U.S. and a bit of cold core convection in Tennessee and Kentucky. Out in the Great Plains, just high pressure, a little bit of ridging right there. We move out to Colorado and Wyoming. A little bit of lee-side troughing, especially when you get up in Alberta and Montana. That's the lee-side troughing. And then once we cross over into the Great Basin area, I can already see the front moving onshore. Looks like that's made some headway into California, around Bakersfield and around Vandenberg, up through Nevada, and then maybe up to Kalispell, and then up to Edmonton. So I'm going to go with something like that right there for the frontal location. And then the cold core, pool of cold air aloft right off the Washington and British Columbia coast right there. So this whole region in here, this is a cold air advection area, and that kind of tails behind the surface front. Okay, let's take a look at one new product. I'm going to show you the Isentropic Charts, and I think we covered this maybe 2 or 3 months ago. but it's definitely been a while. So I'm going to go to College DuPage, and that's going to be this site right here, weather.cod.edu/analysis. And then I'm going to choose the isentropic maps. And this is mostly a cool season type chart that we use. It's not very useful in convective weather situations and when we have a lot of surface heating, but it does have some value back out where we have that polar front system out in Washington and Oregon. So let's take a look at this chart, and what we have up at the top, these are isentropic surfaces in Kelvin units. So 280, 285, those are going to be close to the ground or maybe even underground. And as we go up the scale, those go up to higher and higher levels. So let's take a look at 310 Kelvin. Okay, 310 Kelvin. What you see here, the black lines, those are heights in millibars. So there's the 500 millibar line going through Indiana and back up to Minnesota. Okay, so this is telling us that at the 500 millibar level, over the Cleveland area right here, the temperature is 310 Kelvin. Let's see if we can check that and see if the SCU-T confirms that. Before I do that, let me check the time on the chart there. Okay, that's 0Z, so that looks good. Let me set the time on here. Wow, we're already up to the 6th of May in the UTC date and time. Month is moving right along. Okay, I'm going to pick Detroit here. Okay, so we go up the SCU-T up to 500 millibars. Now, we don't get a readout here of Kelvin units at the bottom. Okay, what we have is Celsius units down here. Okay, so the actual temperature up at that level, minus 18. Okay, this is going to be 273 to 63, 253, 255. Let me go back up and check that chart there. Sorry, I'm seeing a little bit of a discrepancy. I'm trying to figure out what is going on there. Let's see, 500. Sorry, give me just a second. Something looks a little bit off on this chart. 285, 290, 212. Okay, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to skip right past that rather than try to pick that apart. I'm seeing what looks like something strange going on with the data there. But let me go ahead and reduce this to the simplest explanation here. Okay. Sorry, I think these charts may actually be corrupt here. Something doesn't look right. You can see when I go from the higher units, 675 down to the others, I can see we've got 750 here, and then they go all weird. I'm going to go ahead and skip past this. I'm going to look at this a little later tonight. I may have to pick out another isentropic chart site to look at. But basically the way this works is this lets us look at the isentropic surfaces over an area, because parcels tend to conserve their isentropic, their potential temperature when you don't have diabatic processes going on like surface heating or evaporation, stuff like that. So you can kind of use this to follow the three-dimensional units, the three-dimensional flow of air in the atmosphere. So normally what we see is the surfaces are a lot higher over cold air and a lot lower over warm air. And when you have flow over high areas like what you would have in Canada with cold air, flowing downward towards lower heights in warm air, you would get sinking motion. So you kind of see how that works. Okay. I don't know if there's any other sources of isentropic data on the internet. This is a very hard chart to find, but I will take a look around sometime this week. Okay, so let me move on, and I wanted to, before I go any further, I wanted to thank a couple of viewers. I don't know if I gave you guys credit, but I appreciate the Patreon donations: Alexi Walsh, Burl Henry, and Mike Wan for the contributions between early April and now. So much appreciated there, and that'll definitely help keep the channel going, especially as we get back into severe weather, maybe later this week. Okay, satellite chart looking like this. So remember, we've got a cold pool just off the coast of Washington and Oregon right there. Upper level flow coming like this out of the Pacific, tapping a little bit of tropical moisture, bringing that up into Nevada and California. And then this area here around the Rockies, that's under ridging. And as you saw, very hot temperatures there in Nevada. But we're starting to see a little bit of cirrus making it into that region right there, and the front not too far behind there. And out in the oceanic waters, you can see stratus and stratocumulus off the coast right here. This is out in that marine layer, and this is very quiet, very stable weather out here. So if you wanted to go flying out just off the coast, the cloud tops would only be about 1,000 or 2,000, and very good conditions above those clouds and very smooth air. And then what we have on the other side of the front, way back here, this is all cumuliform. It's unstable. The visibility is actually a lot better in between the clouds, but you do have more turbulence, more vertical depth on these clouds. The tops on these probably about 8,000 to 10,000 feet. And that's what we normally see out towards the cold pool there. And in the Great Plains, when we add in the surface heating, that's enough to get thunderstorms and showers out of that stuff. But those kinds of storms are very photogenic. Okay, let's take a look at the surface chart. Very quiet over Texas and Oklahoma there, mostly 70s. We have to go all the way down to I-10 to find 80s. Maybe we should take a look out in Nevada in the West Coast area. And see what kind of temperatures we've got in that region. There you go. That's the current conditions. 95 in Las Vegas, 92 at Kingman, 103 at Blythe, 101 at Imperial. So definitely some very warm air. 106 in Phoenix. Very impressive. And I think this is the front right here from about Bakersfield up to around Lovelock. So much cool air in behind that right there. And I'm seeing 91 here in the Mojave Desert area, 87 in Barstow, and 62 in Los Angeles. And that's that marine air working on shore. But I guarantee you, inland a little bit, maybe towards Riverside, maybe around Palm Springs, probably very warm in that region. So let me take a quick look in that area just out of curiosity. See if we can zoom that in on the LA area. I'm sure Ron is loving this here. He lives out in the Los Angeles area right there. So there you go. There's the Southern California area. And there's the plots. It looks like the marine air has actually moved well inland all the way to right there, but out around the Palm Springs area, 29 Palms, much, much warmer. And there comes the front, all the way to Mojave Pass right there. And looks like the air making it down behind the front, still kind of warm there in the San Joaquin Valley. But further north we do find some cooler air up in that area. Okay, we'll take a quick look at the dynamics here. There's the current chart, and that's showing the ridging across the Rockies. So it's going to be kind of a fair weekend here in the Great Plains. No major waves moving around that ridge. In fact, I think we've got a shortwave ridge making its way around this larger scale ridge, and maybe that's the reason the amplitude is so high. That's a very high amplitude on that ridge right there. And let's see, not much to look at, but over the next few days, looks like the ridge kind of holds in place. You can see things go downhill in the California area. I think the cold pool is going to be moving on shore during the weekend. You see that right there. So maybe kind of a showery pattern this weekend. So there's Saturday evening right there. It looks like a pretty good slug of energy coming into the Los Angeles area. And there's the cold core low right there off Vandenberg. So maybe tomorrow when we come on, we're going to have some weather to look at there in Southern California. And that low kind of spins around out there in the Mojave Desert. The surface front makes a little bit of progress through the Rockies, but the plains stays under the influence of this ridge. And we don't get into a chase pattern type. We don't get any chaseable weather, I don't think, probably until maybe Monday or Tuesday here. We start to get a few waves, graze the higher plains in this area right here. Dry line setting up in that region, and I think that will finally give chasers something to look at there. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this on the GFS forecast, and then we'll go ahead and start closing things out. Okay, so there's the chart for right now, and let me take a quick look at the discussion going on here in chat. Okay, we got, let's see, we got Mark and Sue M. and Fun with Tech and Kevin McKinney, Adam Davis, and there's Alexi. Brian Toomies is here and out there in Florida. Adam Davis hitting the road one week from tonight. Ryan is waiting on the last flights coming in this evening into Florida there. Michael Burrell mentions an EF0 tornado impacting Hartsfield, Jackson, in Atlanta last night, hitting the FedEx planes. Michael, if you have the time on that, let me know, and I may be able to quickly pull up a GR Level 2 image for that. Ryan says, Happy Cinco de Mayo. Forgot about that. Western Pennsylvania had some substantial thunderstorms, according to Adam Davis. Mark Sanchez checking in. Victor Cabo. Or is it Victor Cabot or Victor Cabo? Mark Sanchez mentioning that 101 degrees, clear and warm in San Francisco. It's 78, kind of warm for the Bay Area. Front blasted through 4 hours ago out to the east of Ryan's Place. Dorothy tornado checking in. Lots of thunderstorms last night in Oregon. Wow, that's interesting. But yeah, the front did just come through there yesterday. Brian Harp checking in, and Alex Front and Megan John up in Minnesota. Ryan says northeast flights delayed heavily from the New England area. Megan John says it's 74 and partly cloudy there. Melody loves Jesus. Beautiful down there in Louisiana. Alex Front says, you're such a scooty. Dorothy Tornado says, mentioning that tornado warning in Oregon yesterday, Jackson County, very rare there. Carl Berghoff says, hi Tim and chat, been a few busy days for him. Mark mentions a couple years ago an EF0 tornado in Nelson, just west of Vegas. Are we talking about the Blue Diamond area or out near Pahrump? I think the whole time I was there for 3 years, and I was spending some of my time up at the Tonopah Test Range there. And I don't think I had heard at all about any tornado the entire time I was there, so they are definitely that rare there. But I did see a few landspouts. Those are pretty common in the middle of summer. And those will form along cloud shadows where you have a cumulonimbus, not a whole lot of outflow to disrupt things, and those landspouts love to get going right along those cloud shadow areas. Sue asked about purple colors. Yeah, I think those are stronger vorticity values, if I'm thinking about the right chart here. Okay, Nelson near Boulder City. Oh, I'm sorry, east of Vegas. I was thinking west of Vegas. Yeah, Nelson, Boulder City. That's going to be out by the dam area there. Okay, so let's head through the GFS charts. So moving forward, when we do the webcast tomorrow night, we're going to be looking at this. Ridging all the way from Canada through Iowa, Missouri, all the way down to the Gulf. And you see an interesting feature here, the col, the C-O-L. This is kind of the saddle area between high pressure here, low pressure, and low pressure here. So in between, you got a trough here, you have a ridge here, and they kind of meet in this saddle area. So that's a region of very calm winds, fair weather. And then as we go out to the west, that's where we get the little bit of the lee side troughing and the start of a low-level jet. But as you can see, the Gulf is not open. We do have a pressure gradient inland, so we are bringing up some air from Monterey and Ciudad Victoria, but not from the Gulf. So things are pretty dry this evening. Wow, look at that pressure gradient out there. It's a pretty good system for this time of year. Very windy there in California and the deserts of northern Nevada. And then we move forward through the day on Sunday, and then we get to this point. So this is the evening weathercast on Sunday night. So there's the big cold core low over Southern California. Cold front may be advancing into New Mexico. And then we see a little bit of a lee side trough right there in the northern high plains. And now we are starting to tap the Gulf. There it is, the start of the low-level jet. And now that we have that in place, we're probably ready for some thunderstorms on Monday. And those will probably initially start on the high plains in this region right there. Then for Monday night, polar front jet, or the actual polar front looking like this. So one little segment out here in the Rockies, another segment up here in the Central Plains. And we do have moisture coming out of the Gulf. And you can see that we got a few thunderstorms here, according to the GFS, breaking out there near Tucumcari and Clayton. Then for Tuesday, thunderstorm activity increases there along the dry line right there. Gulf continues to be open. Looks like we got a front right there in the Central Plains, and another front coming out of New Mexico and northern Old Mexico. And with the approach of that front, we're bringing the stronger flow from the west. We're going to have a polar front jet, kind of like this. So shear will be increasing, and storm organization will be a lot stronger. So Tuesday could have a little bit of severe weather going on in this region right here. But that's very iffy. It depends on if we have the instability and the moisture in place. But as far as thunderstorms, yeah, we'll definitely have those. I just don't know how strong those will be. And then for Wednesday, storms a little bit more widespread. Looks like the cold front moves into Texas. So there you go. That's the setup of the fronts on Wednesday. Thunderstorms all the way from the Central Texas area up to the Oklahoma City and Wichita area. Then moving ahead to Thursday, May 11th. Now the surface system pushes eastward into Missouri and Arkansas. So we'll probably see thunderstorms all through this area right here along the Mississippi River Valley, and then clearing coming in behind into Texas and Oklahoma. Friday evening, a week from now. Now we've got the thunderstorms and the front moving eastward into the Carolinas. Fair weather in the central U.S. and looks like another weather system coming through the Pacific region. Saturday and Sunday looks kind of rainy and a few showers in the eastern U.S. A dry polar front trying to come inland in the southwest U.S. And then for Sunday and Monday looks continued dry. You can see that the Gulf is not open. The southerly gradient kind of focused out in this area right here. So this is not looking very good for thunderstorms. Maybe a little bit of thunderstorm activity here. You can see we had the Gulf open on Saturday and Sunday. So maybe a few thunderstorms Sunday and Monday, but it's going to dry out again around Tuesday or Wednesday, mid-month. Then the Gulf opens back up. Thunderstorm activity increases around 17th and 18th, and the next system approaches from the west right there, and it looks mostly like a northern plains system for the 20th and 21st. Okay, that brings us to the end of that run right there. Okay, so that's about all I got for this evening, and Michael says email with the information sent about the tornado. I'll have to take a look at that once we get off the air since I don't have my email up. Melody appreciates it if we keep the rain away for 10 days. We'll have to see about that. And Ryan says, looks nuclear on Wednesday. Midwest Chasers will have a field day. All right. Well, y'all take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.